Hey guys, my name is Matt Johnson, and today I want to talk to you about how to use Adobe Premiere Pro and After Effects to remove everything from sensor dust, sensor spots, or even beard hair from your video footage in post. And I realize the third one probably doesn't apply to you very much, but definitely sensor spots and dust are something that affects a lot of people. Namely, if you are using a Sony a7S II or any other mirrorless camera system in general, what you're going to notice is that the sensor is actually really close to the front of the camera. That is something called flange distance, which I've talked about in another video. It's not a dirty word, don't worry, but the flange distance is what dictates how close your sensor is to the front of the camera. And as you can see here, this sensor is really close and it's really big, so it's very easy for dust to fall in while you're changing lenses. I always want to kind of inspect the sensor to make sure it's okay. So I'm like changing lenses. Okay, if I have a second, I'll make sure, okay, there doesn't look like there's any dust in there. Okay, now I can change the lens. But if I do notice some dust, what I would recommend purchasing is one of these little rocket air blowers. This one's the Giottos, or honestly, there's a ton of air blowers. They kind of look like those things you use to clean out like a baby's snot out of their nose, which, hey, multi-purpose, that could be good too. For now, there's gonna be a link to this air blower in the description of this video, as well as anything else that I talk about today, technical, this camera, other cameras, stuff like that. That said, I don't really wanna talk about how to clean your sensor in the field right now, because I wanna talk to you about what happens after you have already shot all your footage and you're back in your editing software. So you get home, you copy everything over, you're watching your beautiful, glorious 4K footage, and you're like, this looks so great. And then you notice it. Spots on your sensor. Or maybe in my case, maybe you thought you saw some dust earlier, so you tried to blow on your sensor with just your mouth instead of using an air blower, and you may have drooled on your camera sensor a little bit. I'm just saying that may have happened to me multiple times. Always use an air blower. That's all I'm gonna say. But regardless, you are back and you're like, oh no, there are dust spots on my sensor. What can I do about this? I have good news for you, because I'm gonna show you how to fix that today. And there are a ton of other YouTube tutorials I've seen about this, but none of them are as straightforward as this one. There's people talking about how you can like take a screenshot and it's a JPEG, and then you're importing into Photoshop and masking out layers and you're importing it back in. Or there's people that are talking about how you can just blur over the spots, but that's not really going to fix it perfectly. And if it does fix it, it's gonna be a whole lot of work. Now, before we get started, last thing I promise, I wanna give credit to this guy. I believe his name is Michael. He runs the Magic Time Lapses blog, which honestly has not been updated since 2010, but that is where I first learned this technique. So thanks to you, possibly guy named Michael that runs the Magic Time Lapse blog. I will put a link to his blog post in the description of this video for you to check it out. But for now, let's jump into Premiere and start fixing these sensor dust spots. All right, guys, welcome to Adobe Premiere Pro CC 2017. I'm gonna go up here to the About page so you can see that I'm running the version 2017.0.2. Regardless of what version you are using, the technique that I'm gonna show you for spot removal should work. So don't stress if you're running an earlier version. Now that the version number is out of the way, let's start looking at our video project. So right now I have a clip here that I shot on a family cruise vacation that I took last year, which I made a video about, which you can check out. I'll put a link in the upper right corner of this video and in the description of this video. Shameless self-promotion out of the way. This is a time-lapse clip that I shot from the back of a cruise ship. And if I hit play here, you can see there's beautiful clouds rolling overhead while the cruise ship is churning through the water, and it looks really awesome. But one thing I noticed right before I was getting ready to render this thing and be fully done with it, I noticed that there were some sensor spots in the image. So if we zoom in on just this portion of the window, you will see 3 sensor spots. Namely, there's one right here, there's one right here, and there's one right here. And these are very noticeable whenever you're playing the video, because they're not moving and they're just there. And I find that to be very visually distracting, and I don't want that to be in my video clip. So let's go back over to the beginning of the video clip and let's remove those dust spots now. So we're gonna go over here to the Effects tab, and we're gonna search for dust, and that is going to bring up dust and scratches under the noise and grain under video effects, and we're gonna drag the dust and scratch effect over onto our video clip. And the dust and scratch effect is pretty simple. It has a radius and a threshold. The only thing that you really need to concern yourself with is radius. And if I change the radius to 30, which is pretty intense, you're gonna notice that it's going to actually remove most of the solid lines from this video clip, and it's gonna make it kind of look like a watercolor painting, which can be a cool effect if you ever wanna mess around with that. But for us, that's a little crazy, and hey, that doesn't make our video look good. So let's go ahead and turn that back down to 1, and instead, let's create a mask. So we're gonna click Create Ellipse Mask. And that's gonna make it so this video effect is only affecting everything inside this circle. So let's go ahead and start resizing this circle now. We can drag from these squares. We're gonna bring that down. We're gonna bring that over. And we're gonna drag it over to our first spot. resize it a bit more. Just get it down to the general size of your dust spot. Now it's time to fine tune it, so let's go down here to fit and turn our fit to 200%. And we're gonna go over to our first dust spot here. And we're gonna continue to resize it until the circle is just barely larger than the dust spot. Now that looks like a pretty good size. Next, let's go over here to mask feather and turn the feather to 20 pixels, which is going to increase the dotted line around the mask, and it's gonna result in a smoother transition from the regular video to the mask, so it looks really smooth and natural and doesn't look artificially like we have removed something from the video clip. Lastly, let's go back over here to radius and let's set radius to 30. And wait a second, haha! This effect has completely removed that dust spot. And if I click away from the mask, you can't even really tell that there's a mask applied. It is a slightly smoother gradient if you look really closely, but once you put this thing up on YouTube or Vimeo, there's some compression applied, other things like that, you're really not gonna be able to tell the difference, which is amazing. So now let's go through and let's apply this masking effect to the other 2 dust spots in this video clip. Alrighty, I've taken the liberty of skipping ahead in this video and creating these 3 masks because I don't feel like you need to watch me clicking, trying to resize masks for 5 minutes. So now that I have all these masks, we're gonna hit 30 again on the radius. If your dust spots are small, 20 could work for your radius. If they're really big, like you got like a big hair or something crazy, I would raise it up to 40 or even 50. But 30 I find to be the sweet spot for most sensor dust. So now that I've applied that, let's look over here at the video clip and the dust spots are gone. Isn't that cool? Let's hit render really quick. Alrighty, it's rendered now, so let's make the player window big and let's hit play. And look, no dust spots. You cannot see any of those 3 dust spots that I took out. How incredible is that? They're gone. That is amazing and a total lifesaver if you have dust spots, sensor spots, beard hair, whatever on your video clip. That is amazing. And at this point, if you have Premiere and you have some footage with 1 or 2 dust spots, you can stop watching this video right now. That is totally cool. That is the technique that you need to use. But if you're like me and maybe you borrowed a camera from a friend of yours who did not clean their sensor and you shoot a time lapse with it or some other big 4K video, and then you bring it in your editing software and you're like, dude, there are like 30 spots on this video clip. What am I supposed to do about this? And they're like, sorry, man, I didn't know I was there. And you're like, well, this is not helpful to me. If you have a really dirty video clip with a lot of sensor spots, then I would recommend using After Effects. So now we're gonna go in depth into After Effects and I'm gonna show you how you can use the same effect in After Effects to remove sensor spots very quickly. Alrighty, this is the same project that we were just in. All that I have done is create a new sequence with no effects applied. So you can look up here in the effects window and there is no effects. I have not applied anything because we're gonna do all of that in After Effects. So pretend that you've already edited your entire video, it's all put together, and you notice that you have some spots on your footage and you say, okay, there's a lot of spots. I do not want to edit this in Premiere because I don't want to deal with the masking in Premiere. I want to do this in After Effects. So we can now use Adobe Dynamic Link to create an After Effects project inside Premiere Pro. So we're going to click and select this video clip. We're going to right click and we're going to go to replace with After Effects composition. And whenever I do that, it is now going to open up After Effects. After Effects is now opened up, and the first thing that appears is a Save As dialog box, which is where you are going to need to enter in the name of your After Effects project file. So in this case, we're gonna call this cruise ship spot removal. We'll call it that. Also, you can just select where you want to save this project file. I would recommend saving it in the same place as your other project files for the video that you're working on so you can keep track of them. So now we're gonna click Save. And that is going to open up our video clip in After Effects. So cool. Now After Effects handles things a little differently than Premiere Pro. Namely, it handles masks and layers far differently because it is a more advanced program. So if you go and try to select your video clip here and go up here to the mask tool, which is currently set to rectangle, let's change that to ellipse like we were in Premiere. And we click that and we start dragging around saying, okay, well here's my spots here. I want to block these spots out. Oh crap. It's actually creating a mask over certain portions of the image and it's actually making everything else transparent, which is not what we want at all. So we need to press Control-Z, 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 or if you're on a Mac, Command, I believe, is how you do it, and go back to how we were before. Instead of doing that, what we need to do is duplicate this video layer and create another video layer that's the same right above it. And we can do that as simply as clicking to select the video clip, pressing Control-C, and then pressing Control-V. And that is going to create a duplicate video clip right above the current one. That's all that you need to do first. Next, making sure that your second video clip is selected, the one on top. Let's go back up here, make sure that the mask tool is selected, and then we're gonna go over here to our spots and we're gonna start to draw over them. So as you can see, instead of doing a disappearing act for the screen, it is now actually creating an invisible mask. So there's one, and as you can see, that one's not super precise. So what I like to do oftentimes is zoom in, which you can do by pressing Control+, and that's gonna zoom in, but you're like, Matt, how do I get around? If you press H on the keyboard, that's gonna bring up the hand tool, and you can now pan around your video clip. So once that is done, let's go back up here to the top left and select the ellipse tool again, and let's draw an ellipse over this guy. And while you're zoomed in, suddenly you're noticing, oh, there's a little spot there, a little spot there. It's very easy to go a little spot crazy. Only get the ones that are really noticeable though. I've gone a little crazy before, but every time you're doing this, you're increasing your render time, you're making things slower. So if you really have a spot that you can't even see unless you're really zoomed in, your audience won't be able to see it either, so don't freak out. So let's now press H again to go back to the hand tool, and we're gonna go back down here to the bottom right to this other quite visible spot. And you can either select the mask tool here, or you can press Q, and that's gonna select it also. And we are going to drag and select over this dust spot too. So as you can see, we have mask 1, mask 2, and mask 3 down here in the bottom left. And we're gonna click on mask 1, we're gonna hold down the Shift key, and we're gonna click mask 3 so that all 3 are selected. Now we're gonna click the down arrow at mask 1, and that is going to expand all 3 of the masks. Lastly, we're gonna go to mask feather for the first one, click on the second 0.0, and we're gonna change that to 20 pixels. And that is going to add the feather like we added in Premiere Pro. After you do that, you are now ready to add your video effect. So let's go over here to the magnification ratio and turn that to fit. So now we can see our entire video clip, and making sure we have the upper clip selected, we're gonna go up here to Effect, Noise and Grain, Dust and Scratches. And that looks pretty familiar, right? This is the same settings we had in Premiere Pro. So we're gonna change the radius here, again, to 30, and we're gonna wait a second. It's gonna give us a blue bar saying it's loading, and ta-da, they're gone. Look at that, they're gone again. It's so incredible. So this is very helpful to use After Effects if you are editing a video and you have like 30 dust spots, and you don't wanna deal with the masking in Premiere, because that can be a little difficult. Sometimes it's a little slow. With After Effects, it can be much quicker because you can go and whip around quickly with H, where you're panning around your image and you're saying, here's a spot, here's a spot, here's a spot, here's a spot, quickly masking them out and then applying an effect to them. And the benefit of using the dynamic link between Adobe and Premiere Pro is that now if I go back and click down here on Premiere Pro, it is going to begin to update Premiere Pro. So give it a second here, wait for it. Wait for it. And look at that. It has now removed the dust spots in Premiere Pro because we are using dynamic link to connect After Effects to Premiere Pro. So that is amazing because I can now edit this clip just like I normally would in Premiere Pro and render it out, and it will have all of the effects that I've done in After Effects, which is incredible. So if you are dealing with a few dust spots, I would recommend using Adobe Premiere Pro. But if you are dealing with a lot of dust spots and you want more advanced features and masking capabilities, then I would highly recommend using After Effects. Between the two of these programs and with these effects, I hope that you will not be dealing with any more dust spots in your video clips. That's about it. Thanks so much for watching. I hope this video has been helpful to you and given you some great insight into how you can use either Premiere Pro or After Effects to fix your dust spots, your sensor spots, your beard hair spots, anything else like that that you have on your video footage in post. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave one below or get in touch with me through my website, WhoisMatt.com. And as a reminder, it is always a huge, huge help to me if you would consider liking this video and subscribing to my YouTube channel for me to make more videos like this in the future. Also, as a reminder, I'm now offering one-on-one filmmaker consulting. So if you want to go in depth on certain niche camera techniques like this one that we've talked about in this video, or if you want to talk to me about how to film weddings or the business of filmmaking and you want to make more money and book more clients and grow a big beard, then I would love to talk to you about that, and you can check that out at WhoisMatt.com/consulting. Last thing, if you want to check out my wedding film production company, it's Filmstrong Productions at filmstrong.com. Thanks so much and have a great day.